Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. A quick update from me and then to your questions. Please put your questions in the chat of this Zoom and we'll take them all as usual this Thursday, the 5th of September, day 335 of the October 7th war. To start with, sad news of fallen soldiers. IDF casualties since the start of this war have unfortunately risen to 706. Master Sergeant Uri Danino was aged 25 years old and he was from Jerusalem. Uri was taken hostage on the 7th of October. In a tunnel under the city of Rafah, where the whole world told us not to go in, the terrorist fiends hid our hostages. Our brave IDF tried to rescue him. After 11 months in captivity, Hamas murdered him. His body was recovered together with our beloved hostages Hirsch, Goldberg, Polin, Eden Yerushalmi, Carmel Gat, Almog Sarusi, and Alexander Lobanov. The Prime Minister last night apologized to their families that we did not manage to get to them in time to get them out. The Prime Minister said that we worked hard, very, very hard to get to them, and we were very close. Also, unfortunately, First Sergeant Elkanan Navon, who was 20 years old and from Petah Tikva, Elkanah fell battling terrorists in Jenin. The pain of these losses from amongst our people are unbearable. In the words of the psalmist, King David said that I held my voice in the depths of silence. I kept still, even from what was good, though my heart was breaking. The fire of sorrow burns within me as my thoughts churn in flames. The grief of these losses are intense here in Israel. The grief amongst this nation is all-consuming in its nature. As the Prime Minister said last night, Israel is experiencing days of horror, sorrow, and rage. So we embrace their families, soldiers, policemen, and civilians, those dear families who have lost their precious hero sons and daughters in this war for our very existence. As the Prime Minister has said, I promise you, with unity, determination and faith in the justice of our cause, we will fight, and with God's help, we will win. May their memories be a blessing forever. Next, I want to draw your attention to the hour-long press conference the Prime Minister gave last night. His comments are on the Prime Minister's website, but just a couple of points to draw out, primarily on the control of the Philadelphia corridor, which we believe here in Israel is a strategic matter. The Philadelphia corridor, which of course separates between Gaza and Egypt, serves as the main route through which the Hamas terror organization smuggled their weaponry and ammunition, funded and guided by Iran. The unimaginable brutality in which the hostages were murdered over the last few days shows that Hamas continues to perform atrocities like those committed on October 7th. It is our obligation to do everything to prevent it from repeating such atrocities. So Israel is pursuing this just war with just means, taking unprecedented measures to keep civilians out of harm's way and comporting fully with international law. Now an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza. Let me share with you the latest on the status of the polio vaccination campaign. In central Gaza yesterday, the third and final day of this part of the vaccination campaign took place. This completes the first stage of the vaccination campaign. A total of 28,004 children were vaccinated just yesterday, with 109,033 children vaccinated in total in central Gaza, exceeding the expected number of vaccinations in the area. Now, following an assessment with our partners at the World Health Organization and UNICEF, the next stage of the campaign will commence today in southern Gaza. We have enabled a humanitarian corridor for the passage of the vaccinators, and we have demarcated humanitarian areas which will enable safe administering of the vaccine at specific times. This vaccination campaign is a direct result of the Hamas war initiated on October 7th. Now to aid deliveries. In the last 24 hours, 222 trucks carrying humanitarian goods were transferred into Gaza. That's 52 via Erez and 170 via Kerem Shalom. 150 trucks were collected from the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom, 124 trucks by the private sector, and only 26 by the United Nations. But still, the hapless and the hopeless United Nations fail in their duty. 440 trucks worth of aid still await collection on the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom, just languishing in the sun. 420 are a direct responsibility of the United Nations. 15 are from the Red Crescent and 5 from the private sector. There are 6 tankers and 1 fuel truck designated for the operation of essential infrastructure, which have gone in over the last 24 hours as well. And 27 aid trucks were coordinated into Gaza via Gate 96. So that's the end of our briefing today. We'll now take your questions, which you should put in the chat together with your news outlet. Okay, first question here is from Jody Cohen at World is One News in India. And Jody asks, how is Israel reacting to British Foreign Secretary David Lammy's decision for a partial arms embargo? Thank you for that question, Jody. Just yesterday, our Strategic Affairs Minister, Ron Dermer, called the decision shameful, and it is, of course, shameful. Hamas will have celebrated the decision, no doubt. Just days after Hamas executed 6 Israeli hostages, the UK suspended 30 arms licenses to Israel. This shameful decision will not change Israel's determination to defeat Hamas. Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization that savagely murdered 1,200 of our people on October the 7th, including 14 British citizens. Hamas continues to hold 101 hostages, among them 5 Brits. So instead of standing with Israel, a fellow democracy, defending itself against barbarism, Britain's misguided decision emboldens Hamas. They will be celebrating in their terror dungeons. Israel is pursuing a just war with just means. Israel has taken and continues to take, till this very day, unprecedented measures to keep civilians out of harm's way. And Israel is complying fully with international law. As Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer said just yesterday, Britain's heroic stand against the Nazis is seen today as having been vital in defending our common civilization. So too, we believe here in Israel that history will judge Israel's stand against Hamas and Iran's axis of terror. So let me make this clear as I possibly can. With or without British arms, Israel will win this war. It's a war against the UK as well. It's a war against democracy. Israel is facing Iran locally to secure our common future, but be in no doubt, Iran call us the small Satan, and they call the US and the UK the big Satan. We're on the front line of this battle, and we will be successful, not only for Israel, but for their common humanity. Hope that gives you a comprehensive answer. Next question here is from Jane Merrick Thank you for the briefing. I have a question, please. Jim Merrick from the newspaper in London. Following the UK's announcement of a partial arms embargo on Israel, does the Israeli government believe it can rely on the UK for military support in defence against attack from Iran, as happened on the 14th of April, when RAF planes took part in international military action against Iranian drones? Many thanks for that question, Jane. Let me answer it this way. Britain and Israel stood together on the 14th of April. Brave RAF pilots saw down the Iranian menace. They saw it down because Iran is an enemy of not just this country, they're an enemy of Britain as well. And the British government appreciates that fact. I've given a full, detailed answer to the previous question about our attitude towards this announcement from the UK. We've called it shameful, but that's about as much as I'm going to say about this subject today. But I've given a full answer just prior to your question here. Let me just add one more thing, actually, because it relates to the issue of our allies facing this battle here right now. And I've said to you already that Iran is after us, but they're only after us because we are in their immediate neighborhood. They're after you as well in the West. So in common with the Prime Minister and all Israelis, that as our security forces here in Israel remain on extremely high alert, we have as a government expressed our appreciation and thanks to all of our allies for standing united with us in the face of the hate-filled threats of the Iranian regime and its terrorist proxies. In particular, the government here in Israel expresses its gratitude to President Biden and the American people for their leadership, but other countries as well, for their steadfast commitment in words and deeds to the safety and security of this country. Now, many in the international community stand together to curb the dangerous ambitions of Iran, which states very, very clearly its intentions to destroy the state of Israel and threaten both regional stability and the free world. Okay, next question here is from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. And the question from Joel is, will there be a specific military response to the murder of the 6 hostages? And secondly, is there evidence that members of the Egyptian government profit from smuggling under the Philadelphia corridor? Thank you very much for that question, Joel. Let me answer you this way. Look, regarding the murder of our hostages, we are committed and continue to do everything in our power to bring back all of our 101 hostages who are still cruelly held in Hamas captivity, the living, to get them home to their families, to help them rebuild their lives, to rehabilitate them, and of course the deceased, to give them a decent burial denied by their Hamas captive hostage takers, the wicked, evil terrorist organization of Hamas. And we know that among them are women and children and men and the elderly, a 1-year-old child, for heaven's sake. So on the negotiations for a hostage deal, for hostage release deal, these negotiations continue. But I just want to make one thing clear. All of us here understand that this is the same Hamas, the Hamas that murdered our hostages in the most appalling manner, in a barbaric manner, in a heartless manner, in an evil manner. These same actions which they did on October 7th were repeated on our 6 hostages. Israel understands who we're fighting, which is why we will respond accordingly to defend our people and bring home our hostages. No one should be in any doubt of that fact. Let me take the second part of your question. Is there evidence that the Egyptian government profit from smuggling under the Philadelphia corridor? Look, the Prime Minister dealt with this very clearly, I think. Yesterday, he made very, very clear the policy which we are pursuing right now. We believe that the savagery which was meted upon our people and the importance of the Philadelphia crossing specifically because they murdered 1,200 of our people. All of the soldiers I've talked about which have been killed, 706, including October the 7th. They beheaded our men, they raped our women, and they murdered them. They burnt babies alive. They took 255 of our people hostage in these underground dungeons. This is a horror that the world saw and responded to initially. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, it's very important that we remember this. Just last week, we were given a timely, unfortunately, a reminder we didn't need, a terrible reminder that these savages that murdered 6 of our hostages in cold blood, they riddled them with bullets. They shot each of them in the head, some of them several times. And these are the savages, these are the terrorists that Iran trained, armed and implanted next to our border as elsewhere. And we are committed to defeating them and to removing this evil from our midst. Which is why, Joel, which is why Israel's control of the Philadelphia corridor is of such importance. The Prime Minister reiterated this last night. He said that from the Philadelphia corridor, rockets went in, missiles went in, drones went in, ammo went in, weapons manufacturing equipment came in, tunnel drilling equipment came in. So all three of Israel's war goals go through Israel's control of the Philadelphia corridor. Now, of course, we want to destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities. We will not let Hamas rearm. I'll say that again. We will not let Hamas rearm. That should be obvious. So we simply have to control the corridor. We will not allow Hamas to terrorize us, our own people here in Israel, but also the people of Gaza. The Prime Minister's made extremely clear that Gaza cannot have a future if Gaza remains porous. And you can enable the rearmament through that porous border of terrorists through the Philadelphia corridor. We know the Prime Minister made this very clear last night, that it was Egypt's duty to ensure that terrorist arms and terrorists themselves and their deadly weapons did not go overground or underground. Now, on the hostages which Hamas has, it is crucial that we have control of the Philadelphia corridor, because it means that Hamas's smuggling of weapons, in addition to terrorists themselves, but also smuggling out our hostages to the Sinai Desert, where the Prime Minister has made clear that they would be smuggled into Egypt, from where they will likely disappear and no doubt probably end up in Iran or in Yemen to be gone forever. So it is Israel's duty to put pressure on Hamas to release the remaining hostages. Israel must control the Philadelphia corridor. And the third reason, of course, is the third goal of this war is ensuring that we prevent Gaza from ever again being a threat to this country. It's clear Gaza must be demilitarized, and it can only be demilitarized if the Philadelphia corridor remains under firm control and is not a supply line for armaments and terror equipment. The Prime Minister made this very clear last night. He reiterated the strategic importance of the Philadelphia corridor, Israel's commitment to preventing rearmament of Hamas, and the necessity of controlling the Gaza border to ensure security and the release of the remaining hostages, and reiterating Israel's resolve to achieve its war goals, not just for our people here, but for a better future for Gazans. Ordinary Gazans cannot begin a better life for themselves while Hamas remains in control, and ordinary Gazans are fearful that they will receive the same treatment that has been meted out to our poor 6 hostages and others, unfortunately. Next question here is from Jim Williams at Zenga International News. At last night's press conference, the Prime Minister stated that Hamas added over 20 new demands to the hostage ceasefire deal that they, Hamas, supposedly already agreed to. Does the Prime Minister see any way to craft a deal with Hamas when they continue to change what they want in the agreement? Thank you for that question, Jim. Look, we're obviously committed to do everything to bring back our hostages. Let me put it this way. On the actual deal, you know, we've got 101 hostages who are still cruelly being held by Hamas. Some of them are unfortunately deceased. I've already talked about them. But on the negotiations for this hostage release deal, the negotiations continue. In order to form a framework agreement based upon the principles presented by the United States in May in a manner that will enable the return of our hostages while achieving the other goals of this war. Now, you're right, of course, Jim, that Hamas continue to lay on new clauses all the time, but Israel appreciates the efforts of the US and the other mediators to dissuade Hamas from its continual refusal. Just to reiterate this point to you, Jim, it is always Hamas that walks away from a deal. Every single time. Every time there has been any sort of potential peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. Right now it's with Hamas, but also generally with the Palestinian Authority. Even going back to Yasser Arafat, it is always the Palestinians that walk away. Israel always accepts potential peace deals, even when they are far-reaching, and even when we take significant risks for peace. It is always the Palestinian side which walks away every single time, and in this deal it is no different. One way or another, through military means or through diplomacy, we will bring our people back home. We will ensure that Hamas is destroyed militarily and its governing capabilities, and we will ensure, of course, that Gaza can never be a threat to this country, while at the same time returning our displaced people in the north and in the south back to their homes, which is the right thing to do. Next question here is from Xiu from Phoenix TV in Hong Kong, China. With the IDF will focus on the militants of Hamas who killed these hostages. Any comment about the Israeli embassy in Munich? Thank you for that question from Phoenix TV in Hong Kong. I have spoken in fair amount of detail about our efforts against Hamas and to bring back our hostages. But let me just say one thing quickly on the Munich shooting, which you've just asked me about. Look, this shooting incident took place this morning, just near the Consulate General of Israel in Munich. Now, the consulate was closed today. I'll tell you why it was closed. It was due to the commemoration ceremony for the massacre of Israel's Munich athletes in 1972. 52 years to the day. 52 years today. Today, September the 5th, is the anniversary of the 1972 Olympic terrorist attack, when 11 Israeli athletes were attacked. 2 of them were killed straight away. The rest were taken hostage, and they were all killed by the terrorists that kidnapped them, took them hostage, and then killed them. Now, the shooter in this morning's incident was neutralized by the German security forces, and the incident is under the care of the German authorities. The president of this country today, meeting with the German president, speaking rather to German president, thanked the German police and the German security forces for efficiently taking care of this terrorist outrage towards our people, and for standing with us against this terrorist attack. Okay, I think that's the last question for today. Yes, there's no more questions. There's no more questions? No? Well, there is no more questions. So thank you for joining us today. We'll have another briefing now on Monday at 3:30 Jerusalem time. Thank you for joining us. Please do stay safe, and we'll see you on the next briefing. Thank you. Bye-bye.